Thanks very much for stopping by the Digital Creator Daily. If you're new here, I'm Rob from Hey Summit, and this is the daily-ish show where I get to have some awesome conversations with brilliant people who are doing really interesting things. We talk about the creator mindset, staying authentic, assembling your toolkit, exploring platforms, and more. It's pretty relaxed as a show goes, and it's about and for creators. It's also for thought leaders, for independent entrepreneurs. If you identify with doing something on your own, you're most welcome here. And just a reminder, obviously, if you are tuning into this live, conversation is best when it's shared. So however you're tuning in, feel free to jump in with your thoughts, with your questions, with your perspectives. And thanks so much for spending some time with us. I'm very happy to welcome Amanda Webb from Spiderworking to the show today. So she works with, hey Amanda. Amanda works with small businesses to help them declutter their marketing. I love that term, and I'd love to kind of dig into that, as well as to develop sales based on digital marketing strategies. Her marketing content on the Spiderworks blog has won her awards nationally and internationally, and she just loves to talk marketing, which is convenient that she's here. Amanda's written for international websites, including Social Bakers, Social Media Examiner, and Agora Pulse. When she's not working, she loves watching Doctor Who, playing with her cats, and baking cakes. There's baking. So first off, welcome, Amanda.
Thank you, and I really love the name Daily-ish. I love that. That's such a great name. This is my Daily-ish show.
Just first off, what's the baking link there? How does that factor into what you do?
I think it's just one of those things that is completely captures your entire attention and takes you away from thinking about work. I think that's why I like it. And obviously you have nice sweet things to eat afterwards, which is also good.
I recently discovered there's that show. It's probably been around for a while on Netflix, and it kind of seems like the Great British Bake Off, but on steroids. It's all quite fantastical. I've gone a blank of the name, but it's like if you've seen Nailed It. If you've ever seen that one on Netflix, that's about how people try and make beautiful looking things but fail all the time. This is like the exact opposite. All of this stuff looks just so good, so brilliant. And they have some good judges on there as well.
Now, my baking wouldn't be anything like that. It may be a little bit messy at times, but it tastes good.
But it tastes good. That's the most important thing, right? So I would love to hear a little bit about your background. I understand like everything kind of started for you in 2008. And start with a Facebook, I don't know what you call it, an experiment, a lark, whatever. But how did you get going with your business?
So I used to, before this, I ran a previous business, which was a corporate gift company. And then the global recession hit. Nobody was allowed to, even if they had the money, it would be crass to buy corporate gifts. So at that stage, I knew I needed to move on. But that business had been quite successful with digital marketing. I think when I first launched a website for that, it wasn't listed on Google. Myself and the web developer were trying to work out why isn't it coming up on Google. So in desperation, I went and learned everything I could. So I was on internet forums back then. I was looking into SEO, getting deep into what we needed to do. Eventually, I can't remember what it was, but we managed to get it anyway onto Google. Just searching for the name of the business, we weren't able to get it before that. So that's where I started. Facebook came along. My friends were really enthusiastic about it. And I was like, no. That just looks like rubbish. That's just narcissists sharing photos of themselves. And then eventually I was persuaded to go there, and business pages were around. They were called fan pages, but nobody really had one. I think I was the first person I knew to set one up. And I set it up, put up some pictures of products, and somebody bought it straight away that first day. And that was how I got hooked, really. And, no marketing background in particular, but I just went, I like this. I can connect to people. I can, sell stuff.
What was the product?
It was my Christmas. So just a hamper would be like a gift basket. That's the other term for it. So it was just my Christmas offerings, what I had coming up for Christmas. And somebody bought one immediately.
Fantastic. That's amazing.
So, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here now, I'd say.
Well, so kind of pulling on that thread a little bit. So what was it a confidence thing? Was it a thing that kind of just turned you onto an idea that something like this would be possible? Like, walk me through how, 'cause, you know, when you say, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here. What, obviously momentum is so important for getting yourself motivated, right, to go. How was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I was just messing. I was just going, "We'll try this." You know, the same way that you make all the mistakes of like buying ads in trade magazines. I'd done that. I wasted money on that. You know, I tried lots of things. Some things had worked, some things hadn't. So this was just another thing I was trying out at the time. And, you know, the same way as if that trade magazine had delivered me a big order, I'd have gone and advertised with them again. But it didn't. So I didn't get into that. So instead, I was like, okay, this whole new social media thing looks like something I should explore further. It looks like something that would actually help me sell what I've got. And that was working quite well until the recession hit. And then nothing.
And then what
Nothing. But
happened?
I was kind of glad. I was relieved because, like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'd grown to love marketing. I'd grown to love everything around the business except for fulfilling orders, couriers, all that stuff. I knew I loved the marketing piece and I knew that I would enjoy exploring it further. So finding out more about marketing rather than just what to put on a Facebook page. So I moved on to doing this business and helping other businesses achieve stuff initially with social media, but now it's like everything website, social. I don't build websites. I'm a consultant, but I help them develop websites that are designed to deliver sales because so many people miss that. Email marketing, bit of SEO, bit of everything to do with digital marketing, but it all started with that Facebook page.
So you have this, you kind of, you had this experience. It kind of taught you the starting point. You had enough experience in your mind to start doing that for other people. How did you take it from there to figuring out what your niche was and what to double down on? So, you know, you could take those skills that you're learning and you could focus on influencers, or you could focus on enterprise brands, right? So, like, how did you go about figuring out what your niche was going to be?
At first, I didn't really like, I would say it's only the last 3 or 4 years that I've really got into a niche. So initially it was just, as I said, my marketing skills were very low. I was going to conferences and doing courses to learn things as I went. But at first it was just, I built a website myself because I could. I built it, hand coded it with HTML. It was so ugly. But, you know, I put that together. I put up some packages, and because people knew me already, I had the contacts within business. I actually managed to get within that first year a lot of small business clients and a corporate client. So straight away, I was making money, which is what I needed to do because the other business was not going to work in the situation. So I think there was no niche. There was just, can you do this? And I'd say for the good 6 years of my business, it's always been, oh, can you do this? And people would say, oh, I see that you've done this. Can you do that for me? And I'd make up some random price and do that for people. I do a lot of training. So I was very lucky in my first few years to do that training. So I teach people. And that's where the small businesses come in. I've been meeting so many businesses in those training sessions that I'm getting paid for, but they're learning from me. I'm learning about the problems that they have that I can fix for them. And I think that experience has made me understand more about where people are going wrong and how they can get better results from what they're doing.
Interesting. So obviously it sounds like it went from, it was a, not haphazard, but you moved from one thing to another, and then you built on it and built on it. And but obviously it's not all momentum is upward, right? So could you give an example of, like, maybe something that some hypothesis that you had, or something that you wanted to try and that you had pretty high hopes for that just didn't work? And how did you then figure out that it hadn't worked when it came to deciding whether or not you wanted to double down on something and provide maybe an excuse or an explanation why it didn't work? Oh, because this wasn't right, so I do it again, or whatever, versus you getting stuck in a particular rabbit hole?
It's so easy to do, isn't it? You believe in your ideas so much that you just keep plugging away even when it wasn't working. So I can think of two. I had a podcast for quite some time, and it's not, I'll talk about the content strategy in general that wasn't working. It was part of it. And, I was getting a decent number of listeners for an Irish business. I'm based in Ireland. Nothing compared to, and wasn't in the thousands of downloads per session, but I was doing quite well. People would tell me they listened to it. But what I really didn't like was doing it. It was like the other company. Every time I had to record a podcast, I was like, oh, and I'd sit there and I'd do it and I'd edit it and I'd put it up, and there was no joy for me in that. So it didn't drive any sales as far as I know, and I didn't enjoy doing it. And I think enjoyment is a massive part of what you do in your business. Of course, there's going to be things like accounts that you're not going to enjoy doing that you have to do, but you don't have to do a podcast. So, I could have kept it up. It may have grown in popularity. In fact, it's still getting loads of downloads now. It is, in a way. I think it's been 2 years since I published it, but it just was never going to work if I couldn't enjoy it. And I tried every way to enjoy it, and it just became that thing that I would put off and put off. But that brings me to the overall content strategy, because I had a really popular blog. I was getting a lot of traffic to my blog. The podcast would be embedded in the blog. I did all my SEO. I was creating good content. I'd learned how to write better. All of that stuff I really enjoyed. But one day I realized that it wasn't getting me the right people. So even though I had all this traffic to shout about, I had no particular intention to monetize the blog. I was doing it to get customers. And all I was getting was one-hit wonders that wanted to see how to, I think still there, one of my most popular blog posts is how to pick a competition winner on Facebook. Now at the time it did have a slight relevance to what I do, but it has no relevance to what I do now. So that whole content strategy, even though I would have probably hit you if you'd said it at the time, if you'd said to me, you're chasing a vanity statistic, I would have gone, no, look how successful. It's one award.
I know what a vanity statistic is. And this isn't one of them.
I've written a blog post on vanity statistics. Yeah, I'd be like, look, it's won awards. I get all this traffic. I'm ranking on Google for various search terms. I would have told you I was successful, but none of that was particularly driving sales. And part of that was because the content was wrong. I was just answering questions that were unrelated to what I did. But also from a business point of view, I hadn't really, that niche that you were talking about earlier, I hadn't really decided what it was that I sold. And that's why I was doing a little bit. I didn't do social media management after the first year. I did a bit, didn't like that, but I did a few Facebook ads. I do a bit of video editing, do a bit of copywriting, a bit of training, a bit of consulting. There was no real thing that strung them all together. And that's the biggest lesson. It's taken me a long time to get there, but it's the biggest lesson I've learned.
So how did you learn that lesson? How did you maybe intellectually you knew what to do, but how did you actually find that niche and feel and not feel FOMO about not pursuing others?
I don't not feel FOMO. I'm constantly
That's a great insight.
I'm totally going every day. Maybe I should just go over and do video and do video for people. I'm good at video. I should do video because that's my latest thing, right? But I don't want to lose focus. I think you have to say, this is what I do. I have 3 things I do, but one that I really focus on, which is working with businesses on their strategy. And as long as I keep focused on that, I'm going to get better at doing it. And also it's easier for me to sell because people will start looking at me and go, yes, she does strategy, measurement driven strategy is what she does. If I need a consultant, she's going to actually help me get sales. She's not just going to show me how to do something on Facebook. And that's where I'm going with what I want. And the reason I've gone there is because I see a lot of people saying they're strategists, but really they're not. They're people who know how Instagram works. And I know a little bit less these days about how Instagram works than I used to. But what I do know is how you can use Instagram as part of your overall digital marketing strategy. So I keep saying the word strategy. Enough people will realize that that's what it is. The hard sell then is to let people know particularly the small business audience, what strategy is. That's the hardest piece, because I think, you know, they get so many different messages coming from different places. So I see that as my job as well. And that's my focus. As much as I would love to go over and just treat, at the moment today, I would like to go and teach people how to use video all day long. That's not what I do. And I really have to go, stop thinking about that thing, and keep focused on selling the thing that you've been building towards. You know, that's it. But I totally get FOMO.
Yeah, and I think the what you just said, building towards, like focusing on the thing that you're building towards, there is excitement in the novel, but there's also comfort in knowing about this thing that you have empirical evidence to show that you do know well, and that you've made a difference, and you also know how to attract, you know, and close customers for that thing. And I guess sometimes, you know, we're afraid of our own success, and it's also not as, sometimes it's complicated, but sometimes it's also not as complicated as we like to think it is. And that's a tough thing to be okay with.
It's just so easy to get distracted, isn't it? And I think particularly for people who are entrepreneurs or business owners, you know, we're here because we wanted to pursue something new and exciting. So when we see something else that's new and exciting, we want to go and get it. We want to go, oh, TikTok, I've got to go and learn TikTok. Do you know how hard I work not to even look at TikTok? Because I don't, or, you know, recently it's been Clubhouse. Oh, Clubhouse, look at all those people making money on Clubhouse. And I just have to go, look, just stick with what you're doing, because if you go and dilute what you're doing by going and spending hours on Clubhouse every day, you're never going to get where you want to be.
Exactly. And I think that the challenge, especially if you're just starting out, is everything's a temptation, as you say, and someone's thing might be Clubhouse, right? But it also might not be. And I think that the pressure that we all put ourselves under is, but what if it isn't this? And I think that there's a difference between needing to hit it out of the park the first time, or maybe being okay with the idea that you might have multiple routes to success, and it's more important that you just pick one than if you then trying to figure out what the best one is at any one point. But paralysis, what is it? Churchill or something like that. Perfectionism can also be spelled paralysis or something like that. That's a good, it's a good quote, because like you need to be everywhere. You need to be on Pinterest to Twitter to Clubhouse to everything. And the issue is that, you know, you can't. You just can't, and it's not the right fit. And if you were trying to build something for everyone, you'll end up serving no one. So it doesn't actually even fit for. But that's a hard thing because you have to say no to things, and none of us wants to do that, especially if it's like we're working on our own.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And and you're right. It's not just the focus in your business about what it is that your business delivers. It's a focus on what channels you're going to use to promote that. And that's something I learned because I was on everything. You know, I was doing a podcast, a blog, YouTube, as well as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything that popped up. And now I really focus more on YouTube and Twitter than anything else. And as long as you're focused properly, you're not just doing it in a kind of lazy, half-hearted way. And the reason I chose those two was because they're the ones that give me joy. You know, they're the ones I can pursue and still be happy about it.
Yeah,
you know,
they're your thing.
Focus, it works for you, you know, but you really have to be focused. You can't just, you know, put half an effort in. You really have to go, right, now that I'm niched down to these, I really need to make sure that I'm putting as much into them as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So just speaking of maybe mindset stuff a little bit more, in a previous life, you used to work in the film business.
Yeah.
And you used to have like a show on a hospital radio in your teens?
My mother brought me into and got me a show on hospital radio. I've no idea how she did it. She was very persuasive, and I'd always wanted to be a DJ. Well, when I say always wanted to be, that I was the same back then,
you still want to be. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
So I was, she was going, oh, you can go and work on hospital radio. And somehow I got my own show. It was a heavy metal show called Manda's Metal Days.
It's called what?
Manda's Metal Days.
Manda's Metal Days. It was a heavy metal show on hospital radio.
Yeah, and I think I used to have to get a lift, so I was probably 16 when I started, and I finished when I went to college. So I was 18, I'd say, when I finished. So I did it for 2 years.
How did that background? You also were you were in a cabaret show as a
yeah, I like to perform. Can you tell?
Well, but I guess I wonder if it was that, especially working in the film industry as well. Did that impact you not only from maybe a willingness to try things, but also, I don't know what the role was with your while you were in the film business, but that is a very well-known business that people work project to project. That's not necessarily always you're set. You have a set job for life.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm wondering, like, do you find that your background uniquely prepared you for this idea of being comfortable, trying stuff out, messing up, trying new things out, and just getting yourself out there?
Definitely. I think it's easier for me because I have never had a proper full-time job for any amount of time. I've had jobs where I've worked in a shop for a while, and I worked for a cinema for a while, and I was in a temping agency for a while, but they were all in between jobs. I think part of what you do need to curb this in yourself, that wanting to just jump and try do something, just go, oh, do this and do it. I mean, that's partly good for an entrepreneur, and sometimes you need to put a bit more planning in, but that's definitely been me. And yeah, the film business, you'd be working for maybe a few months, and then you might have a few months off, and you'd never know when your next paycheck was coming. But so I think being comfortable with that means that you're comfortable when you go into business, because it's going to be the same. You're going to have months where you're really successful, and you're going to have months that are fallow, so I think that did prepare me really well for that. Definitely.
Any like suggestions or any tips, especially when thinking of, and we'll get on to tactics in a second, but like from a mindset perspective, it can be a very lonely experience, obviously, working for yourself. Any kind of tips that you would want to share for those who maybe are thinking about taking the leap? Maybe they don't have to come from a background where they've always worked for themselves, in a way to prepare them. Any tips that you have from your experience?
I'm quite an introvert, although, as I said, I like to perform. I like being on camera. I like standing up and speaking at events, but I'm quite socially awkward in small groups of people, which is why I say I love to speak marketing, because if I'm at marketing conference, I can talk about marketing all day long, but anything else. So that has helped. I think, yeah, so you have to be able to get comfortable in your own skin. You are going to be sitting by yourself a lot of the day. But things that I would have is, I would have people on Facebook Messenger who also are small business owners, that we can have a little chat every now and then when we're procrastinating, kind of that water cooler chat. I get that through Facebook Messenger, through WhatsApp. I also, I did have a mastermind group. We were meeting regularly before lockdown 1. So it's all on hold now. But that was really helpful, getting together with a group of people, because you're going to think every idea you have is great, because you don't have anyone to bounce it off, anyone honest to bounce off. You actually need to have a group of people that you completely trust that will tell you, no, that's rubbish, Amanda, or that copy makes no sense, or I don't know what your sales page is about. You need that. So I found that really useful. We did try and do it through Zoom, but it wasn't the same. I do have a business buddy who we meet up at least quarterly, but now we're talking about, now that we haven't been able to see each other for such a long time, we're talking about making it monthly for a while, and we'll spend half a day working on our businesses, and then we'll go for a pint afterwards. So it's the best of both worlds. So all those things kind of help keep me sane. I've also got cats. I mentioned the cats. Anytime I need to run an idea by someone, they're totally non-judgmental, so that helps. Getting out then, just like, I'm not mad into networking events. It's that social awkwardness again, and I get exhausted talking to people, and I'm very bad with names and faces. So it's terrible. The second time I walk in, I don't remember anyone. But just getting out, going for a walk every day, getting out of the four walls that you're living in, all those things we've been told about working from home. It's so true. Having a routine, having a structure to your day, having a structure to your week. Make sure you take time out, because I think when you start in business, I'd say for at least the first 3-4 years, I was working 6 days a week and I was working, 12 to 14 hours a day. Now I work 9 to 10 hours a day and I have weekends off. So, and I can take a day off now and then. So I think all of that has helped. And then I do things like I use the Headspace meditation app in the morning to help me get focused. There's a lot of stuff that I would have laughed at people doing, like that meditation, before I got into this. But now I think it all helps me structure my day and make sure that at the end of the day, I feel like some sort of sense of achievement and not terribly lonely. That's it.
Super important. Exactly. That's a lot of really good examples there. Especially the idea of getting out, just getting out, and not only getting out in nature, right, out of your four walls, just getting out of your own head as well. Mm-hmm. is super important. I guess shifting gears in terms of, like, from a digital marketing perspective, are there certain things that you see that you really wish people would stop doing? I mean, we've already talked about trying to be everywhere at all times, but are there, obviously we would love to know what to do, what right thing to do, but yeah, what stuff do you see that you're like, I really wish, I see what you're trying to do here, but it's not going to work?
Yeah, so much. I think it's really hard because you will ask someone. I don't work with micro businesses anymore. I would work with businesses that would have a budget and have some sort of marketing head on them that they feel like they want to achieve something. So it's not that stuff like, at the moment it's Business Suite and it's like the Facebook ads changes. That stuff, is for somebody else. But what I do now is, I've lost my thread of thought. 1 second. Remind me what I was talking about again.
About, like, what things you see that people do that you're like,
sorry, really, it was Business Suite that threw me.
Frustrating. Yeah. No, I have that happen all the time where I get so excited about, like, oh, do I have an answer for it? Go for it.
So yeah, it's content. People get their content so wrong. It's like, we have to pay attention to what the social media algorithms are telling us, but we shouldn't be a slave to them. So you do not have to put up quote photos. It is not necessary unless it's very specific for your business. So that's something that came up. I was doing a social media clinic recently and they were like, oh, I want to post other things in my product shop. Should I put up quote photos? And I'm like, why? What's that got to do with your business or your audience? So I think, having some sort of strategy for what you're putting up online. So thinking about who your audience is. You don't need to get into sophisticated Susan, who's a mother, who's like got, she's 25 and she's got this and that, but just kind of had a broad picture of who you want to attract and what the problem is that you solve for them. So that's the thing, I go to so many websites and on the homepage, not only does it not say what they do, but it also doesn't say who is it for or why I would need this thing that they're selling. So I would say that should be right at the beginning of your strategy. So who is it you're targeting? What's the problem that you solve for them? What are they interested in that is related to what you do? And that's where your content strategy should start, really.
We have a similar type of challenge, and certainly sometimes creators will want advice, right? And chat about what it is that they're building, and it's the exact same thing. They've created a summit or they've created an event, and it's the Digital Marketing Con 2021, and you're asking them, oh, so who is this for? Well, no one's ever done something like this, and everyone could benefit from this. And if you ask, and if your answer to who is this for is, well, everyone can benefit from this, then you are building, you're trying to build something for everyone, and you're going to end up serving no one. And it's like this obsession that I need to be this, but they don't actually care about the foundations to start off with. it means that that will never be able to stand on its own. And it's weird. We all kind of get that, right? We all feel that way. But you're right. It's absolutely super important. And the amount of time that you spend just checking yourself and saying, at least in this incarnation of this, of what we're going to test, this is who I am. This is who I'm selling to, and this is what I want to achieve, is far more efficient than just saying, oh, I need to be everywhere because I'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, that's the being everywhere. We talked about it before, but I see people who are hugely popular on social media, and then I'll see that they're talking about not having any work this month and they need a paid job, or, or work's a bit, there's not much going on this month. I've got, I need some work. Can anyone recommend? And you're kind of like, you're shattering my illusion of how great you are, firstly.
Yeah, exactly.
And secondly, I'm going, I always wondered how you had so much time to spend online.
Yeah.
So I think you need to be able to connect with your activity
Yeah.
online to the profit of your business. And it's hard because particularly social media is so addictive. You see, oh, I'm getting all these likes and comments and follows, I'm doing really well. No, you're not unless you're actually making money from it. And that's where I help businesses. There's the disconnect between what they're doing online and all this effort, and it is their deepest fear. Their deepest fear that what they're doing online is a waste of time, and they're really scared of discovering that. So I'm trying to match everything up for them so that you can actually maybe cut down on the time and make it more streamlined. So I think that's,
don't put the blinders on. Stick your head up. Well, that was amazing. Thank you so much about that. Final question, incredibly important. Who is the best doctor?
Well, I'll show my age, but Tom Baker.
Tom Baker. Okay, cool.
But out of the new ones, I have to go for our most recent doctor, because I always wanted to be Doctor Who. And because we've had a female doctor, I feel like it could be Doctor Who now.
Oh,
but
fantastic.
It will be Tom Baker first.
It will be Tom Baker. Tom Baker first. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for just taking the time, taking a few minutes to chat today. If anybody wants to find out more about the work that Amanda's works on or does, you can follow her on Twitter at Spiderworking, or you can search for her on YouTube. If you search for the Digital Strategy Channel with Amanda Webb, you'll find her there. And also they can grab a free digital marketing strategy template workbook by going to spiderworking.com. So thanks again, Amanda, for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah. Have a great day.